This week on Christian World News, the fight to beat back Ebola. Health officials say it's the worst outbreak in history and the numbers may be much higher than reported. Plus,
this was a very difficult day for Asia, for her husband Ashik, and for their daughters.
Pakistan affirms the death sentence for a Christian mother of 5. She now has one last chance for life and freedom. And parents who face criminal charges because they dared to homeschool their kids. Hear how the government is brainwashing families. Welcome to this edition of Christian World News. I'm Ephraim Graham. George Thomas and Wendy Griffith are both on assignment. World health officials are raising grave concerns about the Ebola epidemic in West Africa. While the official number of cases is at nearly 10,000, the real number could be far higher. Here in the United States, officials are scrambling to track the activities of yet another healthcare worker who fell victim to the virus. Heather Sells has the story.
The newest Ebola patient in the U.S. recently returned from West Africa, where he treated Ebola patients as a member of Doctors Without Borders. On Thursday, Dr. Craig Spencer was rushed to a designated Ebola center in Manhattan after reporting a fever and diarrhea.
We've been preparing for months for the threat posed by Ebola. We have clear and strong protocols which are being scrupulously followed.
A team of disease detectives are now tracing Spencer's movement since he returned from Africa 1 week ago. Before his diagnosis, he rode the subway, went bowling, and stopped in a restaurant. Health officials have sealed off Spencer's apartment and quarantined his fiancée and 2 friends, but they emphasize that Dr. Spencer was not contagious until he became sick.
I think that the thing to make clear is that the first time that this patient had fever was today, and fever is the typical sign of a person developing contagious Ebola.
Meanwhile, new numbers from the World Health Organization indicate the current Ebola outbreak is the worst ever. At least 4,800 people have already died from the virus, and at least 9,900 cases have been recorded. But the WHO says the true numbers may be 3 times higher. Ebola has hit Liberia the hardest, with 4,600 reported cases and 2,700 deaths. And now news that more than half the treatment beds in the capital are empty. It's an unintended consequence of the government order to cremate all the bodies of Ebola victims. The order runs so contrary to Liberian customs that even more people are keeping their sick loved ones at home and increasing the risk of infection. CBN's Operation Blessing is helping those in quarantine in Liberia. Operation Blessing teams provided more than 2 months' worth of food for this family, lasting them long after their quarantine is lifted. Teams also distributed a chlorine mixture, providing families with hand-washing stations and hospitals with desperately needed disinfectant. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Our senior reporter, George Thomas, left Liberia nearly 3 weeks ago. After leaving the country, he immediately placed himself in a voluntary 21-day isolation. He joins us from that undisclosed location now. George, you're about halfway through your quarantine. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank God. By the grace of God, I have a lot of people, friends and family that are praying for me in the United States and around the world. I've been very, very cautious. It's an isolation. I take the necessary precautions. I'm constantly checking my temperature. But typically, most of the infections have taken place within a week, week and a half of a person coming into contact with another infected person. I am past that. I'm 99.999% sure that I am Ebola-free. But again, as a precaution to protect others, my fellow colleagues, I can't come back to work.
Has this experience helped you identify more with those who are affected by the disease?
Yeah, I realize that in the West we have access, Ephraim, to some of the best technology and medical health system in the world. You just imagine in countries like Sierra Leone, Guinea, Liberia, where the infrastructure is pretty much non-existent. We have families that have decided not to go to hospital, to treatment centers because they'll get turned away. They're full to the brim. So we really have it good. Folks don't realize this. We really have it good compared to these three infected countries, and the challenges, Ephraim, the challenges that they face, having to be constantly on guard, wash their hands, again, I'm very, very thankful that I have access in case anything happens.
You were in Liberia with Operation Blessing. Tell us how the church is responding to the crisis.
Operation Blessing and other aid agencies, Doctors Without Borders, Medicine Sans Frontiers, the Red Cross, the various international NGOs, USAID, they're doing fantastic work. I mean, Operation Blessing, they're producing thousands of gallons of chlorinated water every day that will, in essence, help thousands of people stay free. They're going out with teams doing prevention and awareness programs, telling people the effectiveness and the importance of washing your hands, staying away from people that are infected, not to go to funerals, and being very, very cautious. That's all very basic things, but things that will save lives.
George, you brought us an interview with Liberia's president, who is a Christian. How is her faith guiding her through this ordeal?
It's interesting. She is, as you mentioned, a very strong believer. We also interviewed the vice president of the country. Remember, Liberia is traditionally has very strong Christian roots. The churches have been full. They've been jam-packed, Ephraim, since this crisis erupted earlier this year. People have been turning to faith because of the brevity of life. I've described this as the unseen enemy. Unlike in war, where you can see to some extent your enemy, people are beginning to ask those lifelong questions of what does my life mean, and could I catch Ebola, could it kill me? And these questions, these uncertainties have driven people to churches.
George, thank you so much, a man who certainly does not live in fear. We appreciate your coverage and your time. The family of Asia Bibi, the Pakistani woman imprisoned on charges of blasphemy, is still praying she'll be spared from death. This month, the High Court upheld a previous decision to execute the Christian mother of 5, but her battle is still far from over. As Gary Lane reports, Bibi has one more chance for acquittal.
When I met with Asia Bibi's family in late summer 2011, they were hoping and praying she would return home by Christmas. That was more than 3 years ago. Now comes news that the Pakistani High Court has upheld Asia's conviction and death sentence for alleged blasphemy against the Muslim prophet Muhammad. And that has Asia's family very upset. Todd Nettleton is with the Voice of the Martyrs.
When this hearing was finally held, I think their hopes were finally there's going to be justice. I think of Asia's daughters in particular. Finally, our mom is going to be free. She's going to come home to us. And all of those hopes were dashed. This was a very difficult day for Asia, for her husband Ashik, and for their daughters.
When I met Asia's husband Ashik, he told me he was proud of his wife.
Asia never left her faith. She is faithful, and she never denied her faith.
And the evidence against her was tenuous, says Nettleton. He believes the High Court judges did not overturn Asia's conviction because they were likely threatened by militant Islamists.
We know there have been threats by radical Muslims against them. We know there were about 25 mullahs that attended the hearing, were sitting in the courtroom, and about 2,000 more outside the courthouse, bringing the message to bear to the judges, hey, we're watching how you rule on this case. We know who you are. We know where you live. You're not out of our reach. And I think that pressure was reflected in the fact that the verdict was upheld.
Ashik said his wife's imprisonment and conviction came of no surprise because Christians are a small, persecuted minority in Pakistan's Muslim-dominated society.
It is written in the Bible, "In my name you will face persecution, and people will blame you and curse you." And we are facing that.
Bibi has one more chance for acquittal. Her case is now on appeal to the Pakistan Supreme Court. Nettleton says even if the court eventually frees her from prison, Asia's life will still be in danger.
She's not safe there. There is a mullah who has already issued a death reward for killing her. She will need, at the very minimum, to relocate to a safe place within Pakistan, and more likely her and her family will have to leave the country for their safety.
So for now, one last chance. The final Supreme Court decision could take months, if not years. And just like they did 3 years ago, her daughters remain faithful, no matter what the eventual outcome.
We know God is alive. We know He is with us. He will be with us forever.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
An Irani court has sentenced Pastor Benem Irani to an additional 6 years in prison. That is according to Present Truth Ministries. Pastor Benem began serving a 6-year sentence in May 2011. He must now serve a total of 12 years for supposedly committing crimes against Iranian national security. That's the charge the Islamic Republic usually gives to Christians arrested for evangelizing and operating illegal house churches. North Korea has released American Christian Jeffrey Fowl. He flew out of the communist country on a U.S. government jet and landed in Ohio. The State Department credited Sweden with helping to facilitate his release. The 56-year-old had been in custody for nearly 6 months, charged with leaving a Bible in a hotel. 2 other Americans, Kenneth Bay and Matthew Miller, are still imprisoned in the communist country.
While this is a positive decision by the DPRK, we remain focused on the continued detention of Kenneth Bay and Matthew Miller, and again call on the DPRK to immediately release them.
Bay is a Christian tour guide serving a 10-year sentence for what Pyongyang calls anti-government activity. He's only served about 2 years of his sentence and is said to be in poor health. Up next.
There's no question that the family are going to be prosecuted criminally for homeschooling.
Parents facing jail time for teaching their children at home.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Inside every child is a hero, a leader, a friend to others, someone who helps out, who does the right thing, who dreams of what they can be, but they still need our help.
What should I do? What should I say? How should I feel?
That's where Superbook comes in. It provides moral and spiritual truths through situations children can relate to, teaching God's Word to the children you love. Join the Superbook DVD Club and receive Superbook's newest episodes as they're available, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25. Get Superbook today and watch the miracles happen.
Governments around the world are trying to block families from homeschooling. But could you imagine officials taking away your children just because you wanted to educate them yourself? That possibility is all too real for one family in Germany. Dale Hurd brings us that story.
One of the recent recommendations of the panel investigating the Sandy Hook school massacre was for greater government oversight of homeschooling, even though the killer Adam Lanza spent most of his youth in public school and was only homeschooled briefly at age 16. Critics say Lanza's problem was severe mental illness, not home education. But the announcement by the Sandy Hook panel set off alarm bells and reinforced a suspicion by homeschool advocates that state officials will look for almost any excuse to regulate home education. Only a handful of nations in the world allow homeschooling without some sort of restriction. The impulse to clamp down on homeschooling is, according to Mike Donnelly of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, a transnational mindset among bureaucrats.
When you look around the world, you can see there is a common mindset in a lot of government bureaucracies, which wants to control what children learn and how they learn. They want to put them in state schools where they can control the curriculum. They want to have more control over parents.
In Ireland, a homeschooling mother of 6 was recently jailed for failing to pay a homeschooling fine. The laws in Sweden are so tough, the leader of Sweden's homeschool movement had to escape to Finland. But Germany is most notorious for what some call its persecution of homeschoolers.
Germany continues to be a very hostile environment for parents who want to homeschool their children. And the German government seems to have shrugged off worldwide criticism that it violates parents' rights.
Homeschoolers Dirk and Petra Wunderlich lost custody of their 4 children in a police raid last year. It didn't matter to authorities that the Wunderlichs have created an idyllic setting for their children to learn in, or that the Wunderlich kids are obviously educated, happy, and well-adjusted. German police came to their door in 2013 and threatened to knock it down, then took their children for 3 weeks, only returning them after a court hearing that brought international protest, and under the condition that the Wunderlich children would have to go to public school. The state kept custody, so that if the family tried to flee Germany, they would be hunted down like kidnappers. Dirk was defiant.
You have no right to do this, what you do. And don't you think what you are doing? You snatch my children, bring them in foster home, and that is good for welfare? You destroy a family and say that is good for the welfare of the children.
The Wunderlich children described German public school as a waste of time, with a classroom environment that was out of control.
When there are so many children and they are talking about all kinds of things, it's really loud.
In homeschooling, I felt like we were able to learn a lot more in shorter time. In school, they always make it so long, and still you learn less than in homeschool.
They don't learn anything, they get a brainwashing about reality, and also they learn bad behavior.
After a court appeal this year, Dirk and Petra regained custody of their children. They've decided to homeschool them again and face criminal charges.
Well, there's no question that the family are going to be prosecuted criminally for homeschooling.
If they wanted, the Wunderlichs could flee Germany, but they've decided to stay and fight Germany's homeschooling law.
I know that this way I'm going, that is the way of God we have to go, and for this there is nothing to regret or anything.
But the Wunderlichs could lose custody of their children again. Dale Hurd, CBN News in Hessen, Germany.
Coming up, a garden blessing, how one ministry is meeting needs with a gift that keeps on giving.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
CBNnews.com. News you want, when you want, 24/7. Stay current with up-to-the-minute stories.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, New York.
I don't have to wait for my news anymore. CBNnews.com at your fingertips all day long.
I only watch the stories I want to see.
I find the story, I click on it, and boom, I'm there.
Embassy in Washington, Eric Stackelbeck, CBN News.
The source for your news, CBNnews.com.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Welcome back to Christian World News. CBN's Operation Blessing International is helping the people of Guatemala grow tasty organic vegetables, food for their families, and to sell in the market. The farming techniques OBI teaches can revolutionize a low-income agricultural community. Mark Martin has the story.
Isabel and her children maintain a healthy vegetable garden at their home in Antigua, Guatemala. Operation Blessing International leaders worked with an agricultural expert to teach Isabel and others organic and space-saving farming techniques. Now they can feed their families and have produce to take to the markets. Fancy restaurants are interested in the organic vegetables, resulting in a premium profit. Isabel is overcome with emotion when she thinks about how her life has changed for the better.
God uses people to help others, and you never imagine who's going to come to your house and say, "Here are some plants, help yourself." And the truth is, God is so big, because I see this and I say, "Thank you, Lord, because you have sent them to my home."
Operation Blessing International opened an agricultural laboratory in Guatemala to train local farmers how to farm their land using techniques like raised beds, which prevent the plants from reaching the soil that has small bugs that eat the roots, vertical walls, which save space and hold the moisture so that it only takes a small amount of water to quickly grow vegetables, and a precisely controlled watering environment. At OBI's laboratory, they use drip irrigation, but at the smaller family farms, owners can water the plants with cups of water.
The training is where it all starts. Once they're trained, then they can adapt to whatever their own circumstances are.
Carla had no room for a traditional garden, but is applying the farming lessons to grow vegetables in the alley entryway to her home.
First of all, thank God who gave me the opportunity to be here. And secondly, thank them because they give us the opportunity to grow the plants in our own home and feed our children.
Operation Blessing International helps feed the hungry around the world. And with these new farming techniques in Guatemala being used as a model, the humanitarian organization hopes more families can triumph over hunger for a lifetime. Mark Martin, CBN News.
And now you can get daily stories of the work of the church around the world on your Facebook news feed. Simply go to our CWN Facebook page and click like. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
We all want to live in the favor and anointing of God. We want His wisdom to solve problems and His provision for all we need. The Bible tells us the Lord has put eternity in our hearts. Each of us wants the certainty of heaven, to know our lives have purpose and that we are playing a vital role in accomplishing His plan for all mankind.
In Pat and Gordon Robertson's latest DVD teaching, Living Under God's Blessing, you'll discover how to receive wisdom to solve today's problems, the keys to provision for meeting all your needs, and how you can be a part of His plan for the world today. Call now to receive Living Under God's Blessing, featuring the 3-time Emmy-nominated series, Made in Israel.
May God bless you, and may you enjoy and live under the blessing of the Lord always.
Living Under God's Blessing, available now.
And finally today, an end times action thriller may be coming to a church near you. It's called Rumors of Wars. The movie will be simulcast in hundreds of churches between October 29th and November 2nd. Our own Wendy Griffith had the privilege of playing an anchorwoman who helps to set the stage for this unfolding drama. Take a look.
We have breaking news of a bombing on American soil. An explosion went off just moments ago at a military base outside of Chicago. We're told the blast came from a single explosive on the first floor of the mess hall.
It seems that the impact was through the roof.
As the bad news spills from the TV set, Rumors of War centers around the story of Roxy, an aspiring college journalist who investigates end-time prophecies for a term paper. Her findings prove to be more than anyone bargained for.
I know this is hard for you, and I know you're looking for answers.
Just looking for the truth.
Rumors of Wars then catapults you years into the future, where Roxy's diary is discovered in the rubble of a post-apocalyptic society. The book finds its way into the hands of an officer in the New World Army who is torn between duty and truth.
You look at me, you filthy Christian.
You get to see this guy that's struggling to fulfill his duties with the Alliance and being such a, full-hearted soldier and doing what he's told and fighting for what he believes in, but at the same time being conflicted with his own morals.
I pray that God would send me the exact perfect actor for every role, and that's exactly what he did. This is the dream cast for a faith-based film.
Zern Global is in relentless pursuit of perfection.
Other famous faces include Eric Roberts, Brad Stein, Jackie Velasquez.
We gotta go!
And Matt Powell of Third Day, who makes his big screen debut in Rumors of Wars.
I've met a lot of people who are in Hollywood and acting in films and TV, and they always say that they want to be singers, and a lot of times singers want to be actors.
Joining us, we want to bring you up to date on a deadly explosion that went off inside a shopping mall outside of Miami, Florida last night. It happened.
Producers say Rumors of Wars promises to entertain, but more importantly, provides a great way to discuss the Bible and the end times with unsafe friends.
You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come.
And if you'd like to bring Rumors of Wars to your church or venue, simply go to the Rumors of Wars website to learn how. You can find the link at our website, cbnnews.com. That's all for this edition of Christian World News. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, goodbye and God bless you.